Welcoming you to a life of awareness, the Presence Project is excited for you to join us for today's podcast with your host, Paul Kerzner.
Hello and welcome to episode 63 of Are You Being Present? My name is Paul Kerzner. I want to welcome you to the present moment. I want to welcome you to the here and now. And I want to thank you wholeheartedly, sincerely, and deeply for joining me in this amazing, unprecedented, and unique present moment. The title and topic of today's podcast is Understanding Eventualities with Presence. And I wanted to take some time to talk about eventualities because I believe that it will provide some relief to a lot of people that are going through a lot of different things right now. And, hopefully it'll also allow you to address some of the perceptions and perspectives that you're having as you're going through an experience like a pandemic. Like this virus is presenting to us. It's presenting a lot of different challenges. And life, as we have known it, has been shifted tremendously. But there's an eventuality here. We are going and we are working towards a place of resolution. And we will get there because there's no alternative. We have to figure this out. And that's emblematic of life. So when I sit with patients and when I've sat with patients, eventualities is certainly a topic that I like to address pretty early on. Because if you can understand that all life, all living things, all people, places are headed towards an eventuality. And it is our perceptions and perspectives that create a lot of friction getting towards that eventuality. So I'm not saying that, you don't have a choice. We all have free will choice in life. But life is filled with eventualities, things that are destined to happen. And if you can understand that, and you can wrap your head around that, then you'll be able to be present. You'll be able to be more accepting. You'll reduce and possibly eliminate the resistance that you're having to the experience that's being presented to you in the present moment, because you'll understand that there's an eventuality here. At the end of the day, things are sorting themselves out, and it'll happen regardless of the interference that we put up, that we believe might be helping. The best thing to do is take a step back and really look at how you're interpreting a situation, any situation, and remind yourself that the eventuality here is that everything is going to be okay. And yes, the current experience that we're having on Earth is challenging, and I'm putting that lightly. And a lot of people are being deeply affected, if not everyone. But the eventuality here is that we're going to work it out, that we're going to figure this out, that Earth and humans are going to get past this. Because this isn't the first apex moment that humanity has faced. And it certainly won't be the last apex moment that humanity will face. But subsequently, all of the apex moments have been resolved for the most part. We've gotten through it. And just the same, we will get through these apex moments, these present moments. Because it's an eventuality. We have no choice. We have to figure this out, and we will. And the only way to really understand eventualities, the only way to really accept an eventuality is to be present. Because when you're present, you have clarity. You are seeing things for what they are. You're in a deep state of acceptance. Those are actually keys towards accepting and understanding eventualities. You have to be accepting of what's being presented for you and to you. Because if you're being resistant, your perceptions of the experience, of the lessons that are being afforded to you, will lengthen the amount of self-inflicted suffering that's taking place. And self-inflicted suffering is unnecessary. I've said this before and I'll repeat it again. Life is filled with different experiences, and suffering is a part of the human experience that no one can avoid. But then there's the self-inflicted suffering that's taking place. And that is based on the ego. That is based on a lack of presence. And that is also based on a lack of understanding of eventualities. The eventuality is that we will get there. We'll be there. if we can just stay in a state of acceptance, if we can just be okay with what's happening now. I'm not saying, and I'm not telling you, and I'm not suggesting that you have to like what's being presented to you. That's not what this is about. Being accepting means that it's not about whether you like it or not. It means that you're accepting it regardless of however your perceptions are, whatever your feelings are, whatever your emotions are, so that you can gain the clarity and remember that the eventuality, the point that you're working your way toward, is going to happen. We're going to make it, and we're going to be okay. But I know that there are times in life that it doesn't feel like that, and it doesn't seem like that. And yes, during these moments on Earth dealing with this specific virus, many people have definitely fallen into that perception. And, rightfully so. This is a lot to take in. It's a lot to handle for anyone and everyone. But the eventuality is that humanity will rise to the occasion and overcome this experience. We will, because we have no choice. And life will go on. And I'm not saying that we need to dismiss what's taking place now, but we need to be present and accept that this is happening and deal with what's in front of our face, because that is the definition of presence. The definition of presence also reminds us that what we're experiencing will not last. That's the beauty of life, the impermanence. And if you can wrap your head around that and remind yourself of the impermanence of life, how each present moment gets replaced by the next present moment, and how we're working our way toward an eventuality, then you will not have to incur so much self-inflicted suffering. These eventualities are emblematic and symbolic all throughout our lives. No matter what experience you're having, no matter how hard it seems, the eventuality is that there's going to be a beginning, middle, and end. And you will work your way through it. And I think one of the challenges that we run into is that when we're challenged on a deep level, when life shifts in a way that makes us uncomfortable, time seems to last a lot longer for some reason. So before this virus made its way over to the United States, a week could go by, a month could go by, whatever, and it would go by pretty quickly. But as we started to quarantine and shelter in place and lock things down, the days got longer. The hours seemed longer. The minutes seemed longer. Everything seemed longer, and that's because of our perceptions, because of how impacted our routines were. But it's a wonderful opportunity to be present and accepting of the things that are being presented for you, and remember that there's an eventuality here. This is not going to last. Nothing lasts. And being accepting of that fact will alleviate so much pressure in your life. But your ego doesn't want you to think like that. Your ego wants you to get trapped in thought. Your ego wants to take you out of the present moment. Your ego doesn't want you to remember that there's an eventuality here. Your ego wants to create more suffering for you. So my suggestion is stop listening to that loud voice in your head and change the relationship with it. And we've talked about that in previous podcasts, about how dangerous an unguarded mind is when you are the victim of your ego. We have to be the observers. Same thing in life in general. Being the observer allows you to gain clarity over any experience that's being presented to you. So be careful with the thoughts that are flowing through your head, and definitely be the observer more than anything. But remember eventualities. The eventuality in this current experience, in this present moment, is that we're going to get through it. We're going to make our way through it. Life will go on. Because life has always gone on. And it will continue to go on. Yes, there are some changes. Life might be a little different than it was before this current experience. And, I think that makes sense. But the eventuality is that each present moment will afford a new present moment. and we will make our way towards a point that has already been determined. And I'm not saying that you need to jump into the future. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that as you work your way through each present moment, you're working your way towards an eventuality. The work that you're doing to be present allows you to peel back the perceptions, the perspectives that are tripping you up, that are slowing you down, that are getting you lost in thought. And that's not helpful at all, and it's unnecessary. Using your tools, especially having that mindfulness practice in the morning, creating that anchor point for yourself, that gives you the clarity and stability as you go throughout your day. And right now, in this moment in time, having a solid mindfulness practice would be the best thing for you. And you have to build your own toolbox. And that's based on your subjective reality. What works well for you? What can you use in real time to help you ground into the moment and to give you that clarity and to really have clear vision as to what is being shown to you, what is being given to you, the lessons that are for you, and the reminder that there's an eventuality here. And we're going to get there and everything's going to be okay. But for now, it's okay to be a little uncomfortable. And we've talked about what it's like to be uncomfortable and how the best thing we can do is lean into it, see it for what it is. Discomfort, like everything else in life, is temporary. It is not permanent. Just like the current experiences we're having, they're not going to last. There is an eventuality here. And I'm imploring you to do your work, to be present, to remember that there was a time before this and there will be a time after this. That is a guarantee because nothing in life lasts. Everything is constantly in motion. There's no permanency at all. Your ego might want you to think that. Your ego might want you to think that there is something called permanent and that's real, but there's nothing in this life that's permanent at all. And to remember that and to live your life like that will afford you a freedom so that you can become detached and remember the beauty in those efforts. I don't feel like I need to go much deeper into eventualities. I feel like the point of this podcast was to raise it up as a topic, to remind you of what an eventuality is, to remind you of the value presence will pay for you and to you so you can remember the eventuality. And I think that's really beautiful because your efforts on being present will alleviate so much friction, so much suffering, so much pressure, and give you the clarity that you really deserve so that you can see life for what it is, that you can appreciate each present moment regardless of whatever your perceptions are. Because life is exactly the way you see it. It's exactly the way you describe it. Always. We've talked about watching your words, and I don't need to go into that at this point, but be careful. Be careful the way you describe things, the way you talk about things, the way you think about things, because it becomes true to you. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. But just to circle back here, there are eventualities for everything and everyone. And I'm not saying that your fate is predetermined because you have free will choice in this life. But every situation has an eventuality. And we're all going to work our way through it and toward it. So please, use your presence tools. Ground out into the present moment. Remind yourself that nothing lasts at all. And these present moments, as difficult as they seem, will not last. Life will go on, and we will all be okay.
Thank you for listening to the Are You Being Present podcast, brought to you by the Presence Projects. Remember, you have a choice. Choose to be present.